Welcome to the Home Inspector Podcast, where we talk about home inspection business, home inspection marketing, and making money. My name is Ben Gromicko. I'm from INTERNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. Hey, if you're interested in listening to the Home Inspector Podcast, you can get it on iTunes, and also go to our podcast page, and that's at nachi.org/podcast, podcast, nachi.org/podcast. And you can listen to the podcast episodes right there from that page on any device. In this episode of the Home Inspector Podcast, we're going to be talking about Chapter 11 within our Home Inspection Business course. And that's a free online course provided by INTERNACHI called the Home Inspection Business Course. I highly recommend every home inspector taking this course. You do not have to be a member of INTERNACHI. It's open to everyone. It's online and free. Learn at your own pace. We're going to Chapter 11, how to calculate your pricing and billing. That is one of the main questions that is asked when I show up at a chapter, a local chapter, or an event, and we're talking about a business, a home inspection business. How do you calculate how much you charge? It's the most important factor in any business. Figuring out how much to charge for services. That's what we call pricing. It's crucial. Many inspectors have no idea how to go about it. They don't know what price is both competitive and profitable. That's why you need to develop a strategy for pricing your services. Figuring out how to bill clients is also very important. In a home inspection business, you have to learn how to set competitive prices and also how to bill clients efficiently. In this episode, let's learn about those two things, pricing and billing. They are two essential tasks for an inspection business. Let's go to pricing. Inspectors find it difficult to figure out how to price their services and what rate to use. Many professionals struggle in assigning a value to their time. You should know your hourly rate or how much you charge per hour. And remember, your hourly rate needs to cover not just your valuable time, but also your overhead. It has to also bring you profits. So there are essentially two ways. Figuring out how much to charge is not easy, and there's no standard way for how service businesses like ours, home inspection businesses, do it. But there are two common ways to consider. One way is to adjust your number of billable hours so that your revenue equals salary, overhead, and profits. The other way is based upon the local market. And this means that you set your hourly rate based on what your local market will bear. So let's explore more in-depth explanations about these two methods, billable hours and market-based. Billable hours. The billable hours method is based on how many hours you work on your inspection service. The more time you spend doing an inspection, the lower your hourly rate. Given the same rate, the less time you work, the more money you make per hour. The goal here is to figure out your billable hours and your hourly rate. Then you multiply that rate by the number of hours it takes you to perform one home inspection. This will result in a number that we will call your flat rate. The goal is to calculate your flat rate, or what you charge for a home inspection on average. This flat rate can be adjusted up or down by a few other factors, including the size of the job, how old is the house, how far away it is, the amount of time you spend during the inspection. For example, Inspector Mary may have figured out that her business is profitable when she charges an average of $400 for a typical home inspection. This flat rate represents her calculated hourly rate of $100 an hour, assuming that it takes Mary about 4 hours on average to do one typical home inspection. So Mary's flat rate is $400, which can be adjusted up and down depending on other factors. And she figured out that, on average, she works 4 billable hours at $100 per hour to be successful or profitable in her business. To figure out billable hours, let's consider how many total hours you work in a week. If you consider that there are 40 hours in a typical work week and 50 working weeks in a year, then you work a total of about 2,000 hours a year. If you work 10 hours a day, that's 50 hours a week and 2,500 hours a year. But how many of those working hours are billable? That's the question, and you'll have to do some figuring out on your own to answer that. But let's make some assumptions about doing home inspections to come up with an example from which you can learn how to figure out your billable hours. You may have no idea how many inspection jobs you'll have during a year, and therefore, you really don't have a clue as to how many hours you'll actually be working for your clients. Brand new inspectors face this dilemma. You don't have any jobs scheduled, but you need to figure out how much to charge for your services, just like Mary did. If you don't have any jobs scheduled yet, or maybe you just don't know how many jobs you'll be scheduling in the near future, you can calculate your billable hours to include the number of hours you desire or plan to spend at most per inspection job. This does not include business-related work such as administrative stuff, filing paperwork, cleaning the office, marketing, extra training, answering the phones, replying to emails, working on taxes, paying bills, research, shopping for tools, etc. You may think of billable hours as the maximum amount of time you want to spend per inspection job, including driving, inspecting, and writing the report. Okay? So, ask yourself, how many hours on average does it take you to do a typical home inspection? Take that number you work per inspection job multiplied by the number of jobs you plan to work per year, or hours per job times the number of jobs. And that will be your billable hours. For example, let's say Inspector John assumes that it takes him an average of 5 hours per inspection job, including driving to the job, doing the actual inspection, driving back to the office, and writing the inspection report. John plans to work 5 inspection jobs per week. That's 250 jobs per year, assuming 50 work weeks per year. So, John's billable hours are 250 jobs times 5 hours per job, and that equals 1,250 billable hours. Now you try this. Just for this exercise, pick some number to play with. You don't have to have exact numbers, but do your own calculations, just like John did. Again, to calculate billable hours is to think about how many hours you actually work on each home inspection job, even if you don't have any jobs scheduled. The hours would be only the time you spend working on the inspection itself. Assume each job takes 5 hours, including driving time, inspecting time, and report writing time, and you expect to do 1 job per day. That's 5 hours per day of billable hours, 25 hours a week, 1,250 billable hours a year. Now that you've figured out your billable hours per job and per year, let's work on your flat rate or your average fee for one inspection of a typical home in your market. Here's a little math, but I think you can do it. To calculate your billable hourly rate, assuming you have no employees yet, use the following simple formula. Ready? Your desired annual salary plus overhead plus your desired annual profit. Add all that up, divide by your annual billable hours, and you'll get your billable hourly rate. So let's review what the terms in the previous calculation mean. Your desired annual salary is how much you want to make every year. This should be fairly straightforward. How much money do you want to earn every year, annually? $50,000 per year? $100,000 per year? The term overhead is the fixed costs of operating your home inspection business. This usually includes rent and utilities, electric, HVAC, phone, internet, computers and software, other office equipment, cameras, inspection tools, your inspection vehicle and fuel, training, certifications, etc. These are the business-related expenses that you must pay for all the time. No matter what is going on or how your business is doing, your overhead is your fixed costs. The term desired annual profit is how much profit you want your business to make. And a reasonable goal could be 20% for you. That's 20% of the gross revenue, all the money you make. Now, add everything together. Desired annual salary plus annual overhead plus desired annual profit. Divide that result by your annual billable hours. That's the total number of hours you work during the year doing the inspections. For John, it's 1,250 hours. And the result is the hourly rate you need to charge to cover your salary and overhead and make a profit. See, it has nothing to do with feeling. It has a lot to do with what? Math. So here's an example of Inspector John figuring out his billable hourly rate. John's goal is to make $100,000 per year in salary. That's his desired annual salary as gross income before taxes. And he figured out that his overhead is $25,000 a year. So far, John's business needs to make a total of what? Add those two. $125,000 to pay for his salary and overhead. Now, John sets his profit margin at 20%. The question is, how much money or gross revenue does John's business have to make in a year to reach his goal? Here's the equation, a little bit of math. Hang in there. Gross revenue equals the salary plus the overhead plus the profit. Entering known values, we have gross revenue equals John's $100,000 plus overhead, that's $25,000, plus he wanted 20% of the gross revenue, profit. Adding and changing the percentage into a decimal, we have gross revenue equals $125,000 times 0.2, that's the 20% of gross revenue, which brings us to a gross revenue minus 20% of the gross revenue equals $125,000, right? And that brings us to 0.8 times gross revenue equals $125,000. Dividing both sides by 0.8 gives us gross revenue equals 125,000 divided by 0.8 equals 156,250. You got to do this with a pencil and paper. Now, John's business needs to make a total of $156,250 because he wants to make $100,000 in annual revenue, right? That's his salary, desired salary. He wants to pay for his overhead, that's $25,000. And on top of that, he wants to make 20% profit. And that turns out to be $156,250. John's business needs to make $156,250. So John plans to work one 5-hour inspection job per day, assuming 50 work weeks per year. That's 1,250 billable hours per year. So John takes his $156,250, and that's his salary, overhead, and profit, remember? And divides that by his annual billable hours, one 5-hour job a day of $1,250 hours. That's his annual billable hours. So he gets $156,250 divided by his annual billable hours, 1,250 hours he's going to work. And the result is $125 per hour. John should be pricing his inspections at $125 per hour. Assuming John's typical inspection takes 5 hours, John's home inspection service should be priced at $625. This is John's flat rate. the average fee for one inspection for a typical house in John's market, John should do a home inspection for $625, give or take a little. See, John figured out that $625 per inspection will cover his desired annual salary of $100,000 and his estimated overhead costs of $25,000, and it'll also yield a big, nice, reasonable 20% profit. John has successfully set his pricing. Another way to figure out your hourly billable rate is to base it upon what the market will bear. And this method is imprecise because you're not using any math. You're just using your understanding of the local market, including what other home inspectors with similar services and branding are doing and what they're charging. It's also based upon what you have experienced in your business using different pricing. Some inspectors simply price their services high and see if potential clients hire them. If they don't convert based upon a certain price, they lower it until the market responds. Some inspectors look at their competitors' websites to see how they price their services. Then they decide to price their own services based upon what they see their competition doing. That's crazy. To check out your competition, though, it's a good idea. Use InterNACHI's home inspector search engine at inspectorseek.com. That's inspectorseek, one word, spelled with 2 E's.com. It's probably a good idea to set your pricing based upon both methods, billable hours and market-based. You may consider that doing the calculations of your billable hours will result in a number that will pay the bills, pay yourself, and give you a profit, right? And after using the formula, you can make adjustments to your pricing using the market-based approach. For example, remember Inspector John? He calculated his hourly rate in $125 per hour, which equals $625 for a 5-hour inspection job. Now, if John's competitors are charging $400 per inspection, then John will have to work on his marketing strategy and communicate to potential clients why he charges more than everyone else and why he's worth it. Or maybe John combines additional value and ancillary services to the core home inspection service. To reach $625 per inspection, John may focus on selling inspection packages. An inspection package might include a home inspection and a discounted radon test, or a wood-destroying organism inspection and report. The total of the inspection package, home inspection and radon test, could add up to the goal of $625 fee per inspection, assuming the additional value or service does not extend the time allotted for the home inspection. For help with creating your own persuasive marketing materials that express why you're worth what you're asking, contact InterNACHI's Inspector Marketing Department at marketing.nachi.org. That's marketing.nachi.org. If a client hires John at $625 to do an inspection and John realizes that the house is large, then he can adjust his fee upward. If it takes him an extra hour, then he knows that, according to his hourly rate math, he needs to charge an extra $125 for a total of $750 for the job. Likewise, if the job is extra small and it takes him one less hour to do the inspection, John can have confidence in discounting his inspection fee by his hourly rate of $125 and still follow his hourly rate formula. InterNACHI provides to members a free inspection fee calculator, and it's located at nachi.org/fee-calculator. Give it a try and figure out your pricing strategy. It's a free online tool where you enter a base price in dollar amounts. You can also enter factors like mileage, how many dollars per mile do you want to charge? There's an age factor as well. Do you charge more for the age of the home? And also the size. And that's at nachi.org/fee-calculator. Let's talk about outsourcing inspections. Sometimes an inspector has to hire another inspector to do all the inspection services that the client wants, right? Maybe Inspector Mary does not perform mold inspections, but she wants to provide the service. She never wants to say no. If Inspector Mary hires her inspector friend, Manny, the mold inspector, the common approach is for Mary to charge a little more than what Manny would charge. If you use another inspector to perform some service that your business offers but you don't do yourself, then you should inform your client that you intend to hire another inspector to perform certain inspection services. Be transparent. Don't hide things. You should also inform your client of the total price of the service, including the subcontracting work. Don't surprise your client with a big bill. For example, let's say, again, Inspector Mary is hired to do a home inspection and a mold inspection. Mary has figured out that to maintain profitability, she must charge an average fee of $500 for a typical inspection. Mary decides to hire Manny, the mold inspector, to perform the mold inspection. Manny charges $200 for a mold inspection. Mary will mark up the cost of Manny's mold inspection by 20%, a common approach to yield a profit. Mary's goal is to make a reasonable 20% profit for managing Manny and his mold inspection service and report. Mary informs her client that the total fee is $740 for both the home inspection, $500, and the mold inspection, $240. This calculation took into consideration Mary's annual salary, overhead, profit margin, and outsourcing management fee. If you hire another inspector to provide services that your business offers, but you don't directly perform, then your pricing strategy must include your flat rate, subcontractor's fee, and a management fee in order to yield your desired profit. It's all about math. Has nothing to do with feeling. Every business owner, large and small, must calculate these figures in order to run a business that will not only sustain itself, but will also provide some room to grow. Whether you intend to fold your profits back into the business, expand your family, or elevate your lifestyle. Most business owners desire to do all three, and it starts with numbers. So here's your summary checklist. Figure out your billable hourly rate by using a formula that factors in your desired salary, overhead, and profit. Adjust your flat rate for your inspection service up or down using your hourly rate. Do some market research on your competitors by using inspectorseek.com. If you outsource services, mark up your costs by your desired profit margin. And InterNACHI provides a free inspection fee calculator at nachi.org/fee-calculator. For help in creating your persuasive marketing materials, contact InterNACHI's Inspector Marketing Department at marketing.nachi.org. This has been the Home Inspector Podcast. I'm Ben from InterNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. And I will see you next time. Bye.